The following is a paid program. The content is provided by the advertiser. WPSL, its staff, management, and ownership are not responsible for the content. Investment involves risk. Prior to making any investment, an investor should meet suitability requirements. Past results are not necessarily indicative of future performance. Neither the opinions expressed nor the information provided constitutes a recommendation to purchase or provide investment advice. The material presented is not a substitute for obtaining professional advice from a qualified person or firm. Securities offered through Centaurus Financial, member FINRA and SIPC. And now, the host of the Team Martek Hour, Joe Martek.
So we understand that the producer is serving champagne for the party, for the election party.
Hey, break out the bubbly. I don't think we have any.
From last night, I did stay up and watch it.
Did you stay all the way through?
I stayed the whole way, watched his.
You must have slept
speech.
a little bit.
Why would I sleep?
I went to bed around 10, and then woke
you
up.
didn't know anything at 10.
I know, but then I woke up at midnight, turned the tube on. There was still nothing definitive. Woke up at 1:30. It started to look definitive. Got up the last time at 4, and I've been up ever since. And then
you know, I have been like watching this whole thing the entire time. And last night, my husband said, "You know what? I'm just done." You know, you hear some of the commentary, and you're like, "You know what? I'm over it already." We turned our phones off completely at 8 o'clock. We watched junk on TV, basically. We were watching like DIY programs. We went to bed, and this morning we didn't turn the TV on until about 7:30. And waited for the news. We turned the TV on, they were in commercials. So we were sitting there going, okay, we still didn't know if, you know, what had happened.
I knew before I went to bed. I figured I wouldn't go to sleep.
Yeah. Well, that was another buddy of mine. I called him this morning because he's going down to the Breakers with us, part of this crew. And that was a bet I made with folks, with an attorney buddy of mine. I don't call him a friend. I call him a buddy. Remember this, attorneys and friends.
There's a difference.
I know. Anyway, we made a bet that Trump would win or lose. And he said, if Trump wins, he said, I'll take you to the Breakers for lunch.
That's a good place to go.
And I said, okay. So yesterday I got.
But if he lost, if Trump didn't win, did you have to take him to lunch?
Yeah, I was going to take him Taco Bell.
Oh, well.
So yesterday I got him to agree to take 6 of us.
When it was looking really bad.
When it was looking bad, there's no chance. He
up
says,
the ante.
Up the ante. And I still am staying with Taco Bell, by the way, on my end of it. Anyway, so Dan's suggestion today was perfect. And I really appreciate that because I don't want to look too cheap.
Yeah, I mean, I suggest that you make a night of it. You get you personally rent the limo,
right?
Go down there and have a wonderful time, and everybody's a winner.
Take 6 or 8 of us.
And isn't that really what Trump was saying? Everybody last night supposed to be a winner. The country needs to come together, and that's what you should do, Joe.
Thank you, Lord. He sounded presidential today. He got right into the vein of being a presidential sounding person. I mean, he almost sounded like Barack Obama.
Let's not go there.
I don't think so.
My hand is going right for my wallet when you said that.
Well, Dan, House, Senate, Presidency, Supreme Court. Come on.
Did you hear Rand Paul this morning? Anybody hear Rand Paul?
Oh,
he's got stuff already ready for the very first week of his presidency. They're going to pull back on all of those executive orders.
That's what he said
he's
was
ready.
To do.
He's ready.
Listen, I believe, and I don't know if he's doing it today, because if I was him, I'd be passed out about now, but maybe the adrenaline is so strong. Yeah.
But he's a worker bee. I mean,
yes,
he just work.
Tough.
Yeah. That assembling the cabinet, getting that first few weeks off the dime, and
the people who he has alluded to bringing underneath his presidency are top-notch people.
Yeah.
These aren't like political hack appointments because you gave me a lot of money. These are people who can actually get the job done.
Even Christie?
I think he can get
He
the
was
job
on stage
done.
with him when he came out.
Just don't
with
make
the
him in
family.
charge of any bridge building.
No roads
That'll
and
be
bridges.
ancient history before you know it.
That's right.
No bridges and roads for Christie. 340-1590, 340-1590. This is a bit of a celebratory day because Dan, you notice Greg didn't show today?
Well, he'd have to give me a $2 bill if he showed up. I've been
Tell him
out town collecting my $2 bill bets.
Tell him you made quite a few of those.
I picked up 4.
But you said
pick up
now,
another
literally
4
not
more.
$2. It had to be a $2.
It's a $2 bill.
Yeah.
And you can still get them.
Yes. Yeah,
they're hard to come by,
Yeah,
but you can
they're
order
around.
them from the bank. But anyway,
I did order quite a few just in case.
Just in case.
Luckily, I didn't have to use them. So I'll take them out and I'll confuse some cashiers later on this week buying stuff.
those brand new cashiers with those $2 bills, they're going to be in trouble. They're going to look at that and go,
You buy like a $1.80 soda and give them the $2 bill. Confuse them. I just made it. You can feel it. It feels so real.
Because they don't circulate very much.
Oh, no.
340-1590, 340-1590. This is the Team Martek Hour, and actually it's the Dan and Joe show, as we refer to it 90% of the time.
Well, you and I have some prerogative as to where we go in our day.
I think that's it.
So we're here more often, and I don't mind doing that. I like being here.
Well, the key is this: you and I have more fun with this program, I think, than
we don't take it quite so serious.
Exactly. I remember when you ever bowl.
Yes.
Bowl? And some people are serious bowlers. Well, I was kicked off.
I'm very competitive. I like to compete against myself.
I was kicked off the team after one season because I wasn't serious.
You just weren't asked to come back.
Were you there for the beer?
Well, okay, and your point is?
It's like I'm trying to play a little golf, but I don't worship at the altar of the golf god, so I'm sure that I have already ticked off some of these guys I played with.
You're not kidding, yeah.
I just drop the ball where I think it's a good spot. If I hit it in the water, well, I just
get a new ball.
Get another ball.
Yeah.
Who's keeping score?
Not me.
Not me, right.
I don't even worry about the score. If I have enough balls left that I brought,
at the end of the game,
it's
you won, right?
It's a successful day.
Back in 2004, give or take, before Hurricanes Francis and Jean, Dan Woron, independent insurance agent, Greg Fasula, attorney, and Joe Martek, financial advisor, got together and said, let's start doing radio shows. And we did. And the concept was pretty simple. Joe Martek, financial advisor, has asked a lot of questions by a lot of clients that I don't know the answers to, but one of the main ones at that time was to do with homeowners insurance, especially because anybody that's lived in Florida since Hurricane Andrew hit, it changed the complexion of Florida as far as homeowners insurance went. Many companies were put out of business. The state wasn't happy. State had to pick up and pay a lot of claims. And major captive carriers started to non-renew people or increase rates tremendously.
Well, it affected the whole industry, Joe. What you had is you had major companies that were saying, hey, you're overexposed in Florida, and if you don't do something, we're going to change your AM Best or Standard Moody's rating, and the companies did not want that.
340-1590, 340-1590, and we have a caller. Bob, it's Joe Martek. You're on the radio.
Hey, Bob.
What do you think of the way Mr. Trump conducted his campaign with respect to being a gentleman?
Well, I think he sounded just like a gentleman today when he said, I won. He was very, very...
That's not what I asked you, though. I asked you, what do you think of the way he conducted?
I don't think that...
I think he was more of a gentleman than Hillary was.
I was just going to ask you, Bob, what do you think about
do.
Hillary with her, the way she handled it?
Well, I thought that he insulted her and called her a crook and constantly badgered the woman. For what reason? Why didn't he just get up there and present it? I mean, obviously, he has his pulse on what was going on. I thought that's what carried him through.
Bob, I really think that he felt she was crooked. I felt that he felt that some of the things that she did and some of the things that became apparent that she actually did based on information that she withheld gave him the opinion and the impression that she was crooked and deceitful in her manner, and that's probably why he called her that, Bob.
Well, that may very well be, but don't take a look at his background if you're worried about being crooked. He's about to go on trial for fraud. And what about all the guys that did the work that he stiffed?
Do you know who those guys were, Bob?
Do you?
I know who they were.
You do?
I could guess, too, who they were. They were probably contractors who didn't fulfill their obligation, and they didn't get paid.
And they didn't get paid, Bob.
Have either of you ever worked for a living and did?
I've worked since
Every
I was
day
12
of
years
my
old, Bob.
life.
I started pumping gas when I was 12, Bob. When did you start?
I'm working now.
And I was on the milk truck carrying milk cases since I was 8, and then after that pumping gas for 16 cents a gallon in Detroit.
So we understand.
That's great. I'm glad to hear that. But I'm talking about in your adult life.
My
You ever
adult
work
life?
for
Yeah, I'm working
someone-
now. I'm on the clock right
Well,
now,
you-
guys.
Were you ever responsible for a product and have to work for a guy like Trump? And then at the end of the week or the month or whatever the case may be, I've seen these guys. They look at you and say, "You want to take 60 cents on the dollar?" No.
Well, you
I'm
know
not
what?
But you know, they didn't.
I've gotta-
None of
I've-
those folks came forward.
But I've
none of them came
got to
forward.
agree
so
with you. I know a lot of companies, in fact, monster companies, huge companies, that basically they held back a 10% reserve on a lot of these contractors, and a lot of them never paid them. But understand this: a lot of the contractors, and Bob, you know this too, they knew that was going to happen with these big guys.
Joe,
And
my dad.
doesn't make it right.
I didn't say it
No,
made it right.
My
No doubt about
stepdad
it.
worked
And
in
he's one of
worked
them
in
now.
17 states as an electrical contractor.
Yeah.
Massive projects. We always knew that you have that possibility, so you never get yourself so deep into somebody's pocket, because on most construction jobs you have several draws. So if you're relying on that last straw to make your profit, and you're in so deep to this guy, you're in the wrong business.
Yeah, that's exactly. You know,
If you're telling me that that's okay?
no.
Didn't tell you it was
no.
okay, Bob. Didn't tell you it was okay.
What is it that you're saying? It's either okay or it's not.
Well,
if
it's
you
not-
did
it's-
the work, they should pay you for it.
It's never.
Why-
We agree,
Why
but
does it go like? I mean, that's not the point. Whether you agree with me or not, it doesn't matter. Here's what matters: is we just elected a guy. As far as I can see, by his actions on his way up to getting where he was absolutely horrible.
Well, that
The
you're
guy-
entitled
the
to your
guy- I
opinion,
mean-
Yeah,
Bob.
yeah.
You're just not entitled
Well,
to your
that's good.
facts.
Now, I will say this: he's my president, and I will support him. I will give him a chance.
Well,
But
we
the
look
way he
forward to you doing
conducted-
that.
Well, I will tell you this: he's gonna be our president for everybody now for 4 years, unless he
We'll
gets
see.
impeached and thrown out, which I doubt will happen. And then we're all, you know, what I was saying earlier, Bob, that he has all of the guns in his favor now. He's got the House, the Senate, and he should be able to appoint the Supreme Court. Let's see what he
So
accomplishes.
he should get some stuff done.
He
yeah, but
should-
there are a lot of
Well,
people who are afraid of that fact too.
Well, we understand that.
here's the
We
thing.
understand that.
But it would just be if it were reversed, there would be a whole lot of people feeling the
Well, it
same
was
way.
reversed when Obama got his first term in. He had the House and the Senate, and he also had the White House. So I'm just saying, sometimes things get done.
But
Yeah.
that's why there
sometimes they
is
don't get
this
done.
system of checks and
Hey,
balances.
Bob, I appreciate.
Well, listen, one other point I have for you, and the presidency is moving more toward a dictatorship than it is as a president who's controlled by the House and the Congress. So here's the thing: they have such a leeway. That's why Obama got so much done. He got a tremendous amount of done through executive privileges.
Well, Bob,
or
we appreciate you
executive
calling. Call us
leeway.
back later on, and we'll review how he does.
Bob,
Give him a see how it goes.
see how it goes. And hey, report in every once in a while and give us your opinion. We appreciate it. Bob, thanks very much. 340-1590, 340-1590. Hey, you know what happens is this. There's no such thing as any one person pleasing everybody.
No way.
That's impossible. So, and honestly, I have some feelings for what Bob is saying, because, you know, here's what happens. Some people say, Joe Martek, you're old and ugly.
I've heard that, Joe.
I've heard that. And I get to say, well, give me the degree of ugly, because I'll take the old. I mean, there's
But what
always
does that have to do with how well you do your job?
there's always
It
a truth.
doesn't
There's a bit of
matter at
truth in
all.
almost everything, and sometimes there's a bit of exaggeration in most things too. So,
And I've always heard that politics is a blood sport. So if you're looking for someone who's going to be a gentleman in everything they do,
Oh, boy.
you're going to probably be disappointed most of the time.
go back in history, and did you see the movie Lincoln, by the way? No.
Lincoln, I've seen several versions of different movies.
Point is, they had bloodletting like there was no tomorrow among the politicians, to the tune of punching each other. I mean, it was.
I mean, if you read the words of Teddy Roosevelt too, I mean, read some of
speak
the
softly and
things
carry a big
that
stick?
Teddy Roosevelt had to say. You're like, yeah, buddy.
But I think you said it, Dan. Politics is not for people that can't take a sharp stick in the eye, because that fight is pretty bloody. And I look at who got elected between Mast and
Perkins.
Perkins, hey, both of those guys slung as much mud as they could, and it's disgusting, and I don't like it. Nobody likes it.
It's a tough business, but I'm going to tell you because I've been around politics a long time.
That's because you're old.
Well, I am old. Let me tell you what. People who may be, it sort of reminds me of fake wrestling.
Yeah.
Okay, they get in the ring. You think they're beating each other up, and when it's all said and done, they go and they have dinner together.
Yeah.
Okay, a lot of times.
But some
many
people
politicians
believe that
are
it's
like that.
real. Some
Well,
people
I
do.
know.
I look at it and go, if he really hit him like that, he'd be dead.
You'd be dead.
Well, yeah.
So-
Well, it's it's like going to court and there's two attorneys fighting each other, and they call each other everything they can, and they fight tooth and nail. Then they do the same thing. They walk out the door, shake hands, say, "Hey, how's your wife, Charlie?"
That's right, and that's their job.
That's their
And they're
job.
supposed to do that. And I want, if I'm electing someone to represent me, he's not going to have exactly 100% my point of view on everything. That's impossible. So I pick the one whom I think will do the best, and I support him. And if I find that he's not doing a good job, what do we normally say, Joe? Vote them all out.
Vote them out.
Vote them
Vote
out.
'em out. Well,
And I tend to believe that the Hillary ads were pretty wicked. I mean, they were much more hateful than the Trump
either way,
ads
both
that I
sides,
saw on TV.
both sides slung as much mud as they could.
Well,
However,
I felt like this, and then we'll go on to something else. I felt that what we were electing, Joe, was a CEO to run this company
Yep.
called America. And I felt the best CEO candidate was not Hillary. And that's why I voted the way I voted.
340-1590, 340-1590. So we started these shows back in around 2004, and Dan Woron, independent insurance agent, Greg Fasula, attorney, and Joe Martek, because clients had questions that Joe couldn't answer. And in my opinion, if you're a credible professional, you associate yourself with other credible professionals. And when a client asks you a question and you recommend somebody, you just don't recommend somebody blindly without knowing who they are. So Dan and Greg and Joe did a waltzing period for a few weeks before we decided to start doing the shows, just to make sure we were all compatible.
And don't forget, Joe, one of the primary reasons of the show, it's a public service
There you
where,
go.
we encourage people to call in if we have an attorney or we have you or I, we
Yeah.
can answer questions that they may have. And it's really been a nice format because we have helped a tremendous amount of people answer questions that they were not quite sure of.
Been very, very gratifying. In fact, the two newest members of the team on here who are not here today either, Ms. Victoria Loyd, Remax of Stewart, happens to be probably the hardest working person alive, period. I don't care in any industry. She's been in real estate since 1978. Whatever she says, you can take it to the bank. That girl's going to tell you the truth about everything and anything that goes on. Hardworking, rated one of the top 100 Remax agents in the entire globe. She's just hot stuff. Mike Paulus, mortgage broker. I got to tell you, what we've learned about the mortgage business has nothing to do with what we hear on TV and read in the newspaper. Mortgage financing, even at its worst, was always available, but the rules now on financing are you've got to prove that you can afford it.
And Joe, that's not a bad rule. As someone who sort of undergirds
Yeah.
that industry through
Yeah.
my taxes,
Right.
If big banks are too big to fail, that means we got to bail them out.
Right.
So I would like to know that the person who's borrowing this money that I might be responsible for has the ability to maybe pay it back. Isn't that pretty like a good idea?
So that's the system
Common
today.
sense.
Isn't that like the
It's
way it's
kind of-
supposed to be?
yeah.
Now, you shouldn't have to prove that you don't need a loan to get a loan.
Exactly.
But you should be able to prove you had the ability to pay it back.
Well, during the height of the debacle of real estate, we used to joke and say if you could fog a mirror, you could get a mortgage. Well, literally, it was okay, now forgive this language, to lie, because people would say, yeah, I can afford it, and they'd sign a statement, and that document, that's all it was. There was no
It really wasn't, I can afford it. It was, I want it.
I want it.
And that's what it should
How
have
many
said.
would you like?
That's what it should have said. And then what they based it on was credit scores, not on ability to pay. But the basic rules of Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, the government quasi-institutions, was always ability to pay. So they used a ratio of income to debt and said if you qualify based on that ratio and you pay your bills, we'll get you a mortgage. And that's where it is again today.
And you had a tremendous push from the Fed to turn a blind eye to get people qualified because the thinking was it's the best thing for the country to have everybody own their own
Yep.
home. Yeah, and I'm not opposed to that.
Or was it, let's create a bunch of mortgages so we can bundle them and sell them again?
Well, here became the greed motivation, and the greed motivation was, hey, The government wants us to get lots of monies and lots of houses on there. Now we know we've got the government behind us. Now we can package these mortgages and sell them to a bunch of crazy people as solid investments.
Yeah,
and that's what
backed by brick and mortar.
Yeah.
And I can understand the government's position because I've done some analysis in the past on the true cost of governmental housing.
Sure.
It's actually cheaper to buy a house and give it to that person than to put them in a unit that I have to maintain.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's as a business owner,
Sure.
there's certain things I look at and I go, well, I hate to see the money just given away, but it's cheaper.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like it would probably have been cheaper, Joe, to give all the people who didn't have any insurance
Right,
$1
right.
million.
Yeah.
Say, hey,
yeah.
now you're self-insured. And left the system alone. Now we have to
Now we've gotta-
rethink it. And I've always liked your idea, Joe, about perhaps giving everyone Medicare.
Dan, I can't believe you.
Well, I every once in a while you come up with a brilliant idea, and I have to
but
let
that's the
you
first
know.
time you told me you liked my idea.
Well, I do like your idea.
Scary. Well, see, folks, this is a soapbox of mine that I get on from time to time. Now, I'm an old guy, and I'm on Medicare. And I think Medicare is the greatest thing since chocolate milk. And even though, thank you, Lord, I'm not one of those that gets sick, no drugs in me, prescriptions, any of that kind of stuff. So they make good money on me. But my $108 or $10 a month they take out of my Social Security check, and then I'm on a PPO, so it costs me nothing. And if I get sick, go to the doctor, I may pay $10 or $20. If I go to the hospital, it might cost me $50. But
Well, you have a deductible you have to meet first,
No,
and then
no.
Yeah,
no,
you do.
yeah.
yeah, $50, $75.
No, for the year it's
Couple
like 100,
$100.
yeah.
But on the PPOs,
PPOs is different.
they got a whole different ballgame. It's not like regular
But Joe,
insurance.
just remember this.
But that's Medicare.
Yeah,
you
but
see.
you're still contributing, and I
Oh,
like
of course.
that.
Okay, so
now
you
I'm still working
so
and
you-
contributing,
so
which I'm
you're
not
working
supposed to.
and you're paying.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you pay for this your whole life.
Yeah.
So it's not like one of these things that the government owes. You bought this.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Now, what I'm talking about are people who haven't worked their whole life,
Yep.
paid into the system. I believe they should just be able to buy Medicare. Why have them buy something that
I
doesn't work?
1,000% agree. It should not be free. It's
No, it should not be free.
no doubt about it. And it's not free because it's taxed.
Well, for you,
today.
you paid for it all your
I
life.
paid for it, yeah. all
Right,
the
and
way
you
through.
continue to contribute.
continue.
And I can, because I'm still working. 340-1590, 340-1590. Got another caller. Paul, it's Joe Martek. You're on the radio.
Hello, Joe. Good to talk to you again.
Thank you.
I've heard a lot of ads from gold-selling companies about what happened in Cyprus, about how the banks took the money that the depositors had put in to cover their butts or their debts. I was wondering two questions. One, is that a possibility happening in the United States? And the second question is, are there any safeguards to prevent that from happening in the United States?
Well, here you go. Gold is a commodity, right? Very simple. Gold's a commodity, silver's a commodity, copper's a commodity, and there's an open market on that thing. Now, we're not on a gold standard in this country. We are on
We used to be.
Used to be, but we're not. So when people say, just Paul, I'm kind of rambling on this one because I've got clients of mine that said, hey, I'm going to buy physical gold and I'm going to hold this bar of gold and I'm going to put it under the mattress. And I said, what are you going to do with that if the economy collapses? He says, well, I can go buy stuff. I said, You're going to go in the grocery store with your bar of gold and you're going to shave off
Can
a
they
little
make
piece.
change for that?
And the key is this. When other countries do things that are improper, immoral, fattening, illegal, it's a rare occurrence that anything like that can happen in America because this is America. And I don't care what anybody says, and I've been all over the world, and Dan, you spent time in Europe.
All over.
There is nothing in the world as safe as America.
But Joe, so many people are sold things on greed or fear.
Oh, man, big time.
They're a great motivating factor. So if I have a product that I think will be better marketed by greed or fear,
Right.
that's what I push. I'm not saying that paper money has great stability. I tell people all the time who, like you were just saying, you could buy a gallon of gas for a nickel or a quarter.
Right.
Well, I'll buy you a gallon of gas for a quarter if you give me a silver quarter.
Yeah, right.
Well, because it's
commodity's not
they're
worth
the same value.
So the ink in the paper becomes worth less over time due to inflation or whatever causes you want. And you have currency manipulation.
Of course.
And Donald Trump was saying the currency manipulation against the dollar needs to come to an end.
Well, there becomes one of his big things that a lot of people don't pay attention to. One is what we call fair trade. One we call NAFTA, which is not fair trade. There's a duty one direction, but not a duty another direction. There's got to be something that's called simpatico. When it comes to gold and manipulation of gold, it's much more difficult. But when a government allows a banking organization to steal from its consumers, I don't think in a million years it could happen in America. I'm not saying nothing is impossible, but I just can't imagine.
Well, I mean, I own some metals.
Right.
Okay. I'm not saying I'm going to get rich on them, but I have some as a warm, fuzzy feeling.
I know. Yeah.
They're pretty.
They're pretty, so I have that. I know this, that if the American government wanted to drive the price of gold down, all they got to do is release some.
That's all.
That's all
That's
they have
simple.
to do.
Or just call it all no good.
And they did that
Give
before.
it back to us
They did that before.
before this date.
course.
Otherwise, it's
So you
illegal
got to go bury
own.
it in the backyard and wait.
You know, Paul, I don't know if you're in the mood to buy gold, but I've had, I was talking to a few people recently, and if you noticed that the price of gold and silver shot up like crazy this year because of fear. Well, then everybody starts getting happy because, wow, gold went up 30, 40%. Well, it's kind of late when everybody's euphoric. It's kind of like too late to get into it. You've got to buy something like that when people are depressed. Then
Alcohol.
Yeah, see, and I also wonder, Joe, if I buy it at say I buy a silver eagle at $17.
Right.
If it goes up to 25, who am I selling it to?
You got to go down to the local coin
Who's
guy.
gonna give me $25?
You got to
Coin
go
shop, and he's going to shave something off for him.
Of course.
Okay.
But here's the key: there is no open market. It's an open market, meaning if there's a buyer.
Right.
So unlike the stock market, Paul, that has the NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange, which has the trading mechanism in place to make things happen instantly. So when people buy gold shares on paper, they can trade them, buy them today, sell them today, do them every 5 minutes if they want. But when you own a piece of gold, you got a whole different story. Anyway, the rule of it is don't move to Cyprus.
Don't put your money in.
Don't
Cyprus.
put your money in
Cyprus banks.
So what I'm getting is that
We don't have an answer.
We're trusting the United States government not to be like Cyprus. There's really no rule
guarantee.
or law
No.
or anything that prevents them from taking the depositors' money to pay off their debts.
However, here's what happens. The United States government is us. It's the people. And we elect, we impeach, we unelect, we sue, we have more power as a people in this country than almost any other country.
But don't banks have just a certain limit of protection for your money where it has like FDIC insured, Joe? So you could have different accounts, maybe.
You try to
one
get
with
it, though.
Well, you could have runs on the bank. I'm just
Yeah.
saying everything is backed with the good faith and trust of the government.
And the government is us.
And
So-
with money being so electronic, don't you think it would be very, very easy for them to just have the computers down one day?
all it amounts to
Cyber
That's
theft
very
is a big thing.
scary.
Paul, let me make this thing worse. We only have a deficit of $18 trillion
And growing.
and growing. Now, you heard my million, billion, trillion story, Paul?
No.
Oh, you haven't? Well, Paul, you
He's
got
the only guy in the
you're the only one
state.
left in the
Paul,
whole
you should
world.
have just said yes.
No, now you got to listen. When most of us hear million, billion, trillion, we don't really pay much attention because our checkbooks are missing a few of those zeros. You might resemble that.
Many.
However, this is trivia, but it's perspective. 1 million seconds, tick, 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 is 12 days. 1 billion seconds is 32 years. That means if you stood in front of a fireplace and you threw a dollar bill into the fireplace every second for 32 years, you'd get rid of $1 billion. Just to make you feel better, 1 trillion seconds is 32,000 years.
Oh my God.
Time 18.
You'd have to throw a $1,000 bill in there.
At $1,000, we could add up the cumulative people of everybody here, subtract 40 years from our life, and never get rid of it.
Never.
Point I'm trying to say
Who
is,
is the government jerk that's throwing these dollars into the fireplace every second?
yeah,
He's leaving in a couple months.
yeah, January.
Time is getting short.
January is hey, we are hoping, extremely hopeful, that this new administration is going to do things different than the last 3 or 4 generations or administrations, or 5 or 6, however far we want to go back.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, the Clinton administration
Yeah.
did leave us in a fairly good position, but don't forget, Joe, he had a lot of help in doing that by the Republican House and
Well,
Senate.
let's just hope-
They encouraged him to do the right thing a lot of times.
Let's just hope that this guy coming in can match and blend and repair and make it happen. You know, that's why we voted for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Paul?
You forgot paint.
That's right.
Hey, Paul, thank you so much for listening and calling in. We appreciate it.
Thanks for the help.
Bye.
Appreciate it.
Bye, Paul.
Bye.
340-1590, 340-1590. So, we started doing these shows back in 04, and the concept was to answer questions for people, even though we're not really staying in vain, when it came to insurance, when it came to law, when it came to mortgages, when it came to real estate, and when it came to finances,
And let's
money.
face it,
That's
Joe,
business of everyday life
of
for every
course.
person.
So many things I know enough to be dangerous.
Yeah, yeah.
So if like somebody asks me something about investments, I can say now, hey, I got somebody you can talk to. Let me know how it turns out.
Right.
And then I would call them and say, hey, how'd it go with Joe? Did it work good?
Yeah, yeah.
Because I want to know how it went. You know.
You know, in fact, I've got a couple of subjects that have come up recently. One in particular is near and dear to me, and it's called exchange-traded debt, which for the last 2.5 years, I have basically been anti the stock market because if you listen to the pundits, most of the, quote, economists, people that really supposed to know what they're talking about, say the market's a full boat. A full boat means the value of the company's stock really can't go up much more unless it's speculative based on the products and the volume, dollar volume, and
Like
profits.
the price to earnings.
So we have
ratio.
what's called a PE ratio, price to earnings. Now that PE ratio is one of the things that I look at when a client says, Joe, what do you think about this company? And I'll say, well, the price to earnings ratio is 35 or 40. It should be 10 to make you comfortable and happy. Well, Joe, 35 to 40, but they're growing like crazy. I said, okay, the rules have nothing to do with every company. Some companies, let's take Facebook. Let's take a few others that have gone crazy. Take Microsoft when it was going crazy. The rules did not work.
And sometimes, Joe, when you have a stock like that, I've seen them split it
Yeah.
because they know it's getting to that point of no return.
So the key is this. That's one thing. Well, the price to earnings ratio is around 18 to 20 right now, which means that the market is full by anybody's estimations. So what I've been telling people is let's just sit fat, dumb, and happy making 5 or 6% in something that's 100% liquid. We can buy it today, sell it tomorrow if we want to. And that's what I've been doing with 90% of the people I talk to. Now, if they're young and they have long-term horizons, we might look a little different.
I liked it when you said young and looked at me.
I didn't mean it. Well, we have another caller. Pete, it's Joe Martek. You're on the radio.
Yeah, I just had to make a comment about you. We were doing real good with the Clinton administration.
You got it?
The reason we did so well is because he gave all our living wage jobs to the Chinese who are getting paid 3 cents a week.
There's a lot
Well,
of
the
truth in
companies
that,
that-
Pete.
You're right, Pete.
Companies do wonderful, and sure, the stocks go up, but heck, what am I doing? I'm living hand to mouth now.
Well, you know what happened is here comes the Don right now that's come in and said, hey, what we've done has not been fair. Now, fair
Exactly.
simply means, you know, and America has been big brother to this whole globe and done everything in the world for people, and we've gotten nothing back except abuse. And we're all kind of hoping that the new boy on the block here makes it a more equitable system.
No, even if he gets 10% of what he's saying he's going to do, I mean, it's 10% more than we had yesterday.
Amen.
Absolutely.
Amen.
Absolutely.
Pete, listen.
Thank you for calling.
You're saying it on the money, man. We appreciate the call.
No problem.
Call anytime.
And we want to say hello to all our WSTU listeners. We are broadcasting on our sister station as well. So
No,
if you
I
want to
didn't know
call
that.
in, you're listening to STU 220-9788 or 340-1590.
You can. Yeah. What's that first number that you rambled through?
220-9788.
220-9788.
You're not going to remember that, Joe. You're
Of course
too
not,
old.
but that's why I wanted her
It's
to.
going to ring here anyway.
340-1590. Well, thank you for simulcasting us on 1450 AM. They should do that for us every week, but for some reason they don't.
Yeah,
I
well,
don't know.
Well, they are this week.
look into
It's
that.
an important week.
It's
You
an
need to look
important
into
week.
that,
It's
Joe.
an important week. 340-1590, 340-1590. So there's going to be, and I think what Pete said really, really resonates. If he does 10% of what, it's better than what we've had.
That's true, Joseph, but I will be disappointed personally if I don't see more than that. I have a higher expectation that he is skillful enough in negotiation and skillful enough. Look how he accomplished this. If he can accomplish this, I believe he can do some other things that we're not expecting him to do in a relatively quick fashion.
I mean, really, I don't know if people are realizing that he went up against 15, and I'm going to say 15 Republicans and the Bushes.
Including.
And the press.
And then to defeat Hillary Clinton is...
Yeah.
And you have to say, it is the American people.
I did not expect for Barack Obama to defeat Hillary when he ran against her. I was shocked when he took her down. And I'm just as shocked.
But see, I'm much happier. I believe a deal was made.
That's possible.
And it's possible.
That's very possible.
All I know is, and I think we're all definitely on the same thing here, we're expecting quite a bit out of the boy now that he's in. He's made some things, and I think I listened to this one lady on the tube, and in fact she was a black lady from I forget where that was voting for Trump, and she said, look, sure his father gave him $1 million, but he didn't go out and have a party.
He did, he could have easily blown that
million. He turned it into billions of dollars by working, and he's raised kids that are solid kids that don't drink, don't smoke.
Well, look at the work ethic he showed just in this election.
Oh boy.
Look at the work ethic he showed.
The hours and hours and hours that man put in. Now, hey, in defense of Hillary, put in quite a few too, but she didn't fall down every time. All I know is we are expecting some great things to come out of this administration, and we should get some pretty solid noise pretty quick. 340-1590. We got 2 calls. Let's take Victoria first because Bulldog's on, and we'll take him a little longer. Victoria, say hi. You're on the radio.
Hi, how are you?
We're good.
Very good. Did you vote for the boy?
Yes, I did.
I knew that. I just had to pick on you.
Hillary's giving her speech now.
Uh-oh.
On TV, but
is she being?
Got to get a contract signed, so I just wanted to check in. I know everybody be celebrating.
She was a no-show last night.
That's it.
She had Podesta come out.
Hey, look if I had Podesta, I wouldn't have come out at all. Anyway, Vic, hey, listen, go do your contract. Congratulations to all of us, and hey, everything is looking rosy.
That sounds great. Congratulations, guys, and I'll be seeing you soon.
All Thanks. 340-1590, and we have a faithful listener, Bulldog. It's Joe Martek. You're on the radio.
Hey, how you doing, man? Hey, congrats on the win. I voted that way too.
So we're all celebrating.
I have a question for you, Joe. I mean, I was looking at markets today, and Europeans overseas were doing really poorly, and the futures were down like 800.
Yep.
And I'm looking at the market. We're up $1.35, $1.40.
Yep.
What the heck is going on with the market, man? And you got to call Mary Beth, by the way.
I'll do that. Here's the key with the market. The market is very emotional, and there's traders. There's aggressive traders out there that trade aggressively with millions and millions and millions of dollars based on emotion. And very often the big guys will run out the little guys, and the little guys, when they get into a panic, sell like crazy. Then the big guys buy on the dip, and then they do it. And I was listening to some very sophisticated traders on CNBC the other day, and you've heard these words. It isn't something the average person does. It's called buy on the dip. Well, when they look at a company that probably is solid, that's probably going to be around for a long time, but all of a sudden a piece of bad publicity comes out and it makes the stock go way down.
Like Chipotle. Remember what
happened?
Like
Chipotle. But other companies
Are they
too.
okay now?
I'm not sure, but it does happen. And what happens is a lot of very sophisticated traders, they just start rubbing their hands together and say, ooh-wee.
You heard that this morning, too.
We're going to make
more than one place, buy on the dip.
Yep. So then today, the market overnight went down 800 points. Then it responded, came up over 100 points, and then it came down to like 15. My rule, Bulldog, has been when it comes to the market, if it's based on fundamentals, it's called the price-to-earnings ratio. If the value of a company is worth $1, but the stock is selling for $1.50, at some point there's going to be something to pay because you can't continue to have a price go up if there's no value. So the overall market today is in everybody's opinion, is full. Now, that doesn't mean individual companies are not bargains, and usually what they call now a stock picker's market. They're not buying the broad market. They're buying certain companies that they think are going to go. Anyway, I don't know if that answers anything that you're asking, but that's my soapbox.
Well, I mean, it surely does like that, but I was just, are the European and Asian markets fearful of a Trump election? Is kind of my general. It seems like, the U.S. markets are like going, whatever,
Well, let's suppose you had
as usual.
But they didn't overnight. Overnight, they went down 800 points.
If you had an unfair treaty, when I mean an unfair treaty, I mean an unfair treaty against America, and you were the company or the country that was benefiting from that unfair trade balance, you might be a little apprehensive when you hear the new president say, hey,
we're going to straighten your butt out.
I'm fixing that.
Yeah.
I can't wait for that.
Well, and I think that's where we're at. Like right now I was hearing that there's a 16% duty on goods leaving America going into Mexico. But there's no duty on goods coming from Mexico into America.
Well, then somebody's not doing their duty if that's the
It all sounds like
so
duty
you know what
to
it
me.
is? It's here became one of the things that the Don was saying, that these things aren't fair. Fair trade means fair, not just totally biased. Because then all of a sudden a company says, well, boy, oh boy, I'm going to move my company down to Mexico because I can ship my goods.
We're making up for it with people.
Yeah. Anyway, Bulldog, thanks for listening, my man. Thanks for calling in.
You got it, man.
Have a good day.
Take care, guys.
340-1590, 340-1590. Back in 2004,
we started this group.
we started doing these radio shows to answer questions for people, and we've
done that today.
Had a couple of business questions, which was good, and we had Ms. Victoria Loyd call in and say hi. And we were talking a bit of politics today, pro and con, and I'm sure that not everybody's happy.
Well, I do have an idea about some politics, pro and con.
You do?
How do you start a GoFundMe page? Because if I recall correctly, there were a lot of people who said if this happened, they were leaving.
Yeah, right.
Now, I don't have the money to pay for them all to go.
No.
But I'd sure like to start a GoFundMe page and see if I can get them some tickets.
A lot of these people who made those claims have a lot of their funds of their own. They can afford a.
I would love to just be able to
first-class tickets.
I'd like to be able to hand them a ticket.
Yeah. Well, it says, hey, you know what? There's no such thing as one person making everybody happy. It's impossible. And politics is always going to have pros and cons.
Well, looking at it, it looks almost evenly split.
Yeah.
But isn't
so
that a little
50%
juvenile saying,
of us
hey,
are.
if I don't get my way, I'm taking my toys and going home. I'm leaving. Come on.
That's why my brother used to have to play baseball with us, because he had the baseball. Anyway, we started doing the show so we could answer questions for people revolving around mostly business, insurance.
Politics is a form of business to a degree, because if things, just like Bulldog was saying, if certain things happen that could cause business to go really bad, okay, that's what you have to be aware.
Well, look, in '96, Clinton deregulated broadcasting, and it's never been the same since.
Yes, you're right. Absolutely.
No, it just seems as though every time, and I'm not saying every time, but quite often when the government sticks their nose into private enterprise, we have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And it costs more money, and there's less profit.
One of the big things Don is talking about is getting rid of the Dodd-Frank legislation, which has just caused unbelievable grief for a lot of small businesses. And I'm not saying small like Joe and Dan. I'm talking people with 50, 100 employees that now have major
What's odd is it's considered a business with under 500 employees is small.
Yeah.
That's a big business.
That's a big business as far as we're concerned. But literally the regulations that are put on businesses in America, it's almost anti-America, because this country was founded on free enterprise, entrepreneurial systems. Everybody in Europe wanted to come to America because there wasn't somebody telling you couldn't. All you had to do was work hard and you could succeed. And it just seems those rules have kind of fallen apart.
Well, we have all these departments within the government now to quote unquote protect us from ourselves. So,
and they have to justify their positions.
And they have to justify their positions. And there's 5 or 6 layers of management before you get to someone who actually works. So, the cost that it takes for the business to run is unbelievably expensive.
340-1590, 340-1590. So Greg Fasula, attorney who is not here, which we really going to have to pick on him on.
He may not show for a while.
He may not show for a while, because even though I call him a flaming liberal, he's a moderate.
According to him, he's a moderate.
He's a moderate. But I could almost guarantee he did not vote for Trump.
Wasn't he already saying President Clinton?
Yeah, I think he was. The concept,
I think he owes me $2.
I think he may. Yeah, that might be good. The concept of the group was either here to save you money or make you money. Joe Martek's job is to protect and to make. And that's why I lean heavily on these debt instruments today that are paying 5 and 6% interest. Debt instrument means it's not common stock. Common stock means you own the company. Company goes out of business, you lose your money. But if you're a debtor, you're higher up on the pecking order for getting paid. Let's face it, when a company goes bust, who gets paid first?
Lawyers.
The attorneys. After the attorneys, secured debt. After secured debt is unsecured debt. When everything is liquidated, if there's any money left over, it goes
stockholders.
It goes to the
they get
stockholders.
Pennies on the dollar usually.
If they get anything. So the key is this. The debt instruments that I use are called notes, debentures, preferreds, and they're with household names, monster companies, including utilities, which I consider near as sacred as humanly possible, and they're paying 5 and 6% interest, and they're 100% liquid, meaning I can buy it today, sell it tomorrow. Now, you don't want to do that because you got to pay me.
Well, maybe you do want to do that.
I might want to do that. What if I made enough? How long would I have to hold that? Maybe I might want to do that.
Usually it's about 6 months. Then you're going to be ahead of the bank. But you figure if you're going to pay me 2 or 2.5%, depending on how much you put in, and you're making 6, you got about a half a year or a little bit less than that. On the other hand,
if you kept it for a whole year, you're way ahead.
Then you're way ahead of the bank. You're 3 or 4 times ahead of what the bank was. The other side of the coin is, though, too, they have a goofy rule, which I've often said it doesn't need to make any sense, but they have what's called X dates and record dates, which means if you own it by a certain date, they're going to pay you 3 months worth of interest because they pay every quarter. Sometimes the X date and the record date is less than a week before they pay. So I just had a particular company that declared a dividend that hasn't declared for a whole bunch, and the dividend isn't going to get paid till the end of the month, and you have to own it on the 20th of the month to get paid at the end of the month.
Wow.
Now,
that's not a very long period at all.
But in the meantime, they just declared the dividend this week. Guess what happened? Price of that stock skyrocketed 20% because people knew they were going to get the dividend.
Yeah.
So they came in and bought like crazy.
Now, let's suppose I wanted to buy something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, I called you on the phone.
Right.
What would be the normal time frame it's going to take me from the phone call to when I can own it?
Usually a week or two, because here's what happens. Normally, I don't do business with people the first time I meet them unless they want to, and then I have. But normally it's called, hey, let's get to know, make sure you understand. I want to make sure there's no questions unanswered, so take it home and sleep on it. So sometimes that's a day or 3 or 4. Second meeting, quite often, we fill out an application, which is name, social security numbers, normal stuff. We open up a brokerage account. I'm a broker. Money goes in, you write a check, money goes into a money market account. And as soon as it clears, which takes about 3 days, we then can immediately place what they call a trade, which is a buy. So normally what I would do, let's just say Dan did that and Dan put in X number of dollars and it clears. The day it clears, I would call Dan on the phone and said, okay, Dan, here's what we talked about. Here's where it is today. Are you ready? And Dan would say, go ahead, Joe. And then within 2 minutes, it's done. Dan would then get a confirmation in the mail, get a call back from me saying, hey, here's what you've got. Write this down. You're going to get it. And we can show you how to trace your own account on the computer.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah. So it's a pretty simple system. Now, on a minor little thing, very seldom do I charge a commission on a sell. I have, because people made too much money and they felt guilty because when they bought it and sold it.
I've never had that problem.
I know, but I have. Of course, I made them feel guilty. I hate to tell you.
That's a real good problem to have.
Anyway.
You made too much.
The point is, normally I just charge a commission when you buy. I don't charge when you sell.
I'm sure there's a reason for that.
Well, the concept is this. If I'm making you money, the odds are good you're going to come back.
Well, that makes sense.
That makes a perfect sense. In fact, I had a fellow this week, I said, the one that has declared the dividend, we got him in extremely well, and he put quite a bit of chunk of money in. And I said, gee, I hate to tell you this. Not only have you picked up 20% above what you paid for it, but you're getting an $11,000 dividend check in 2 weeks.
Wow.
He goes, oh, Joe, I should call you more often. I said, please call me every day.
Call me every day.
This is very lucky.
Wow.
Point is, the key is we become a partnership. I get a commission, but the key is you're going to make the money, and if we do these things correctly and you understand what you're doing, sometimes we have a chance to do a little better than make the 5 or 6. Now, not often, but every once in a while. So it really depends on you and what they call risk tolerance and what your long-term goals are and what your desires are. And once we are on the same page, then we can work together. 340-1590, 340-1590. Anything new in the insurance business?
Well, what's happening at the office is, once again, and I mentioned this earlier this year, we're going to be looking for more help.
Yep, there you go.
It's a wonderful problem to have, to try to find a new person, and it's purely because of the growth. And I watch the numbers very closely because I never want to have not enough people to take care of what's going on.
Right.
So I always try to hire in advance. So we're looking for some more staff people because we have just seen such.
You're talking licensed people.
License. Well, I may look for a front desk person now if they got good experience. I'm not sure. We're going to have a meeting and see where we need the most help. But it's a direct result of the massive amount of new business that we're quoting and then selling. In other words, quoting is just an exercise.
Yep.
It's the quoting and the close. So that shows me there's a lot of volatility in the industry. A lot of rate increases are going on, and so people should definitely take the time to give us a call and take advantage of what we have to offer while it's still available.
Hey, the bottom line is, and let me toot Dan's horn first, the last minute or so of the show. When we started doing these shows, I wanted to find an independent insurance agent. Independent meaning he didn't work for one insurance company, because I used to work for a company called Farmers, fine company, but I was a captive agent. Dan worked for Nationwide, fine company.
I still
still have them. So what happened is, but if you only work for one company and that company changes the rules, you could lose a lot of business. You lose clients. You lose credibility with clients. So the people that I know that are doing the best job, in my opinion, for the insured are independent, because the independent might have 10, 20, 30. Dan's got somewhere under 100 companies under the umbrella because he's got enough business and a big enough agency that he can make those companies happy. And when a company falls out of favor, Dan's staff knows they can plug them into the computer and say, hey, we've got 8 other companies we can shop, or 10 or 12, and fill in the blanks.
It's a nice problem to have.
Hey, you've earned, he's only 37 years in business, and for a guy your age, that's a
long time.
340-1590, 340-1590.
Thanks for calling in, folks.
We're out of time, but you call their radio station, they'll give you your name and number, and we'll get back to you. 340-1590. Until next week, say hello to the Don.
You've been listening to the Team Martek Hour. The Team Martek Hour is a paid program. The content was provided by the advertiser. WPSL, its staff, management, and ownership were not responsible for its content. Investment involves risk. Prior to making any investment, an investor should meet suitability requirements. Past results are not necessarily indicative of future performance. Neither the opinions expressed nor the information provided constitutes a recommendation to purchase or provide investment advice. The material presented is not a substitute for obtaining professional advice from a qualified person or firm. Securities offered through Centaurus Financial, member FINRA and SIPC. Tune in again next Wednesday at 11:05 for the Team Martek Hour here on WPSL 1590.